Aloha. I thought I'll start like that because to go in line and align with what's happening in Moana at the moment. We are in Hawaii celebrating, of course, the 13th Polynesian Festival of Arts. And so it's appropriate to say aloha and tarofa, malolele, maloni, kia ora, kia orana, whakalofala yatu, pola, and welcome to another episode of Tagaloa Tradition Teachings. It's where we unveil the ethics, the principles and the moral values of our spirituality that are woven into our culture. So if we live according to our culture on a daily basis, we are actually practicing our spirituality, which is pretty much how our ancestors lived their lives back in the day. This podcast is about decolonization, spiritual decolonization. We believe that we need to, now is the right time to restore Tagaloa, the god of Moana, the mana of Moana, back in her rightful designated place, which is in the throne of your heart and in the throne of my soul. Because having Tagaloa in our hearts and in our souls, that is the way we spiritually engineer the thoughts in our minds, the words that we speak, and the actions that we take. And so, once again, welcome to Tagaloa Tradition, our Moana spiritual revival. This week I want to speak on identity. And I want to use a poem that was written by a Samoan poet, the late Lemalu Tatesimi, who wrote the poem entitled Identity. I think it's so appropriate now that we're all gathered in Hawaii with the festival and all. And this is one of the key factors or points that was raised by the leader of our delegation, our Chris Hazelman, who said, our identity is not negotiable. And I would like to follow up on that. And with a text of a poem by Lemalu Tatesimi, by the same name, Identity, which reads, educate yourself enough so you may understand the ways of other people, but not too much that you lose your understanding of your own. Try things palangi, not so you may become a palangi, but so you may see the value of things Samoan. Learn to speak Samoan, not so you may sound Samoan, but so you may feel the essence of being Samoan. Above all, be aware and proud of what you are, so you may spare yourself the agony of those who are walking around asking, what am I? What am I? And that's the theme of our Tagaloa Tradition Teachings for this week. Identity. You know, it's not unusual now for me to walk to Apia, the capital of Samoa, and hear young people walking the streets speaking in English. It was unheard of 7 decades ago when I was a young boy. And now, even when they stop at the lights to cross the street, I hear them talk in English. Sometimes they will ask the question in Samoan and they reply back in English. So they have this conversation playing ping pong, one speaking Samoan, the other speaking back in English. And it takes me back to when I was a young lad growing up in the village. At primary level, I think year 3, year 4, our classroom was an open Samoan fale. Our desk was a mat that we sat on the floor. And we learn our times table, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, and so forth. And we learned it in Samoan. And we learned it all the way up to 12. 12 once is 12, 12 2 is 24. And we got it so good, we felt that we were so bad to the point where we could do it blindfolded. We could do it left-handed. We could do it walking backwards. And we thought we were so bad. Until our teacher threw a curveball at us one day, and she said, I want you to learn the times 2 table in English, and I will test you on it tomorrow. So we went home. Nobody learned because we didn't know how to learn it in English. And so the following day we were tested. She said, okay, let's see who did their homework last night. What is 2 times 2? And he was quiet for like 10, 15 seconds. And the little girl in the front put her hand up. She said, 4. Very good. Okay, what is 2 times 4? Again, another pause. Again, the little girl in the front put her hand up. She says, 8. Very good. Needless to say, she was the teacher's pet for the day. After school, we rallied around this girl, and she said, and we said, how did you learn the times table? And she said, I didn't. But you answered all the questions. Yeah, I cheated. What do you mean you cheated? How? Because when she asked the question, I translate the question in my head. When she said 2 times 2, I translated to Samoan. Lua ni lua wa fa, and 5 is 4, and I told her. And that got us all thinking. And that wisened us up to the fact that when something foreign comes into you, and you are the pure of what you are, you need to have your understanding through the lenses of your understanding to look at that new concept, that foreign thing coming in, for you to have some idea or some understanding of that foreign concept, that thing. And that's what she did. She translates every time somebody speaks to her in English, she translates it in her mind into Samoan, then translates into the Samoan answer into English, and she will articulate. Why I told you that story is because nowadays our young people are so into the speaking, they feel comfortable speaking the English language. And there's no more translation because there's no pauses in between the conversation. Sometimes before the question is finished, they're already answering back. But the interesting thing is sometimes in the conversation between our young people today, speaking in English, they ask the question in English, but they reply back in Samoan. Or they ask the question in Samoan and they reply back in English. I think what's happened is our mind, our English, our Samoan system of thinking is slowly fading out of our minds. The template to enable us to think Samoan is slowly becoming less a part of our thinking process. And they say, what you think is who you are. So if our people, our young people, are finding it more conducive to where they are and who they are and what they are, to think Palangi, then that could be the start of not knowing what we are. Could be the beginning of the end of our identity. And that's what the poet, the Maluta Tesimi, is talking about. Educate yourself enough so you may understand the ways of other people, but not too much that you lose your understanding of your own. When we start thinking like a Palangi, then we're losing our understanding of our own. When we don't have that template to be able to think like a Samoan, then we're thinking more like a Palangi, and we are losing that understanding of our own. The second stanza of the poem, try things Palangi. Try things Palangi. Not so you can become a Palangi, but so you may see the value of things Samoan. Now, speaking, we're talking language. And this is the most valued thing in any culture is their language. Because if you don't know your language, you don't know your culture. If you don't know your culture, you don't know what you are. You have no identity if you have no culture. But you don't have no culture if you don't have a language. So, our young people have gone over and tried to think Palangi. And now, unfortunately, they are slowly becoming Palangi. And somehow I don't blame them, because one of the things here in Samoa, and I'm sure it's prevalent with the other island nations of Moana, and that is, if you speak English, people look at you like you're very clever, you're very smart. So it looks like our intelligence level is gauged upon this foreign thing that is not local, that is not us. And that is why our young people tend to speak English and want people to hear them speak English, because they want people to think that they are smart and they are intelligent. Try things Palangi, not to become Palangi, but so you can see the value of things Samoan. The Samoan language is so deep. The English language is peculiar to that particular thing you're looking at. The Samoan language, one word, but it could mean the application to an event. It means a story about a historical thing from a historical past that one word represents. So that's the value in the language. Try things Palangi, not to become a Palangi. So learn the English language. It's fine, so you can communicate with other people. But in learning the English language, then come back to your Samoan. It'll enlighten you with the depth and the spirituality that is in our language. And the third line of the stanza, it says, learn to speak Samoan, not so you may sound Samoan, but so you may feel the essence of being Samoan. And that's what I mean. When you start learning, researching, looking, and yearning from your heart to learn about your language, then you will find that our language is so rich. One word could mean a whole application, a spiritual journey. It has a meaning. Tulo. One Palangi said, Tulo is an English word. Tu, T-O-O, Lo, L-O-W, Tulo. And it's a Samoan word derived from Tulo, because when the Palangi walked in the hut, Samoan hut, he couldn't get in because it was too low. So he had to bend his knees and walk in. And you know, when you say too low in Samoan, you bend your knees and walk past elderly people. And there is a whole new meaning in too low in Samoan. Just one word. And listen to how the Palangi sees it and what the word really represents. Shows respect for elderly people, shows respect for your culture. And then the whole poem is summed up, the last stanza. Above all, be aware and proud of what you are, so you may spare yourself the agony of those who are walking around asking, what am I? I think that is the purpose. People say, what is my purpose in life? I think our purpose in life is to find out who we are. And now we are exploring more, and they say that who we really are is the real you. And where the real you is, it's inside you. And most of the people, practically all the people that have made the journey and have arrived in their destiny, and they say finding yourself is meeting God face to face. And that's what the poet is saying. Above all, be aware and proud of what you are, so you may spare yourself the agony of those who are asking, what am I? If you don't know your language, you don't know your culture. If you don't know your culture, you don't know who you are. Identity is very important. And I'm so glad that when I watch the voyaging canoes come in to Hawaii to celebrate the 13th Pacific Arts Festival, it was so beautiful. And the first thing that came to my mind was the book that was written by Mr. Mawala Lefionga Mawala Vau, Albert Wendt. His first book, translated into over 20 languages, and a movie was made of it. And the book was Sons for the Return Home. And when I looked at it, that's what I saw. We are finally coming home spiritually. We are home in a physical sense. Geographically, we are home in our island nations. But finally, when watching the voyaging canoes come in, spiritually, I know our ancestors were watching. And they're saying, sons for the return home. Have a pleasant celebration in Hawaii, and from all of us in our indigenous motherland to all of you in the diaspora, and especially all the delegations in Hawaii, stay blessed, and until next Sunday.